Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of McKenzie Health System, I'm very happy to say we're beginning our Healthy Living webinar at this time. And we'll run through our lunch together.
I am so happy to welcome to our Healthy Living Together program. This video will be available on YouTube. We do healthy living videos monthly, so you can mark your calendars ahead for February 10th. We will do Ladies Go Red, and then February 16th, I will be talking about eating for a healthy heart.
Our speakers today are Emily Quandt, licensed master social worker and case manager with our medicated assistance program. And our host is Christine Myers, our registered dietitian. And our topic today is how to make recovery happen.
Okay, so I will take over. Hi, everyone. Let me take over the screen here. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. And so my name is Emily. I am the case manager, social worker for the McKenzie Substance Abuse Recovery Program. And today I am going to be speaking on how to make recovery happen. So the idea here is the presentation that I base this off of is for opioid use disorder, as well as other substances. But while watching this video, I would encourage you to consider that this is about behavior change, and we all have behaviors that we may want to change. This could include cigarette cessation, alcohol use, even weight loss, trauma. It's about recovering from substances or a behavior change that you would like to see. So I will go ahead and get started. We are going to have questions at the end. If anyone has any, you can go ahead and type them in the Q&A section. I love questions. I'm happy to answer them. All right. So we are going to start out with the stages of change. So what the stages of change are is it's where a person stands in their readiness to change. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to start walking you through the different stages and what they mean. And one thing to keep in mind here is this isn't just a linear step down each stage. You may be at pre-contemplation, up to contemplation preparation, and then step back some. The other thing to take into consideration is you may be at different stages of change for different areas of your life. So let's say if someone has an opioid use disorder, they may be at a contemplation stage of change, which I'll get to in a minute. But in terms of cigarettes, pre-contemplation. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, I think, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows that the stages of change can vary from person to person and subject to subject. So, all right, next slide. Okay, so we're going to start with pre-contemplation. So this is the idea that the cost of the problem behavior is not yet recognized. The individual is in denial and not considering any kind of change. They don't see a problem with what they're doing. They may have made previous attempts, have failed, and just say, hey, you know what, I'm giving up. It didn't work. I don't have a problem anyways. So let's say you have a person who has an opioid use disorder. And I'm going to give you an example from the point of view of the family member. So let's say a family member calls me as a therapist and says, I just don't know what to do. My loved one doesn't acknowledge that they have an opioid use disorder. Some of the things that the loved one may hear is something like, it's no big deal. I just do it with my buddies once in a while. I can stop anytime I want. You're overreacting. And so what I encourage people to do is to just be there. Don't encourage the behavior, and don't allow it. But if you keep saying to someone, you have to change, this is a problem, and they're still in that pre-contemplative stage, they're not ready. And if someone's not ready to change, then they're not going to. And so this is that pre-contemplation. It can be the most frustrating place as a family member. So, all right, let's go next to contemplation. So what contemplation is the individual starting to experience some ambivalence about change. You know, maybe there's a problem, maybe there isn't, I don't really know. Maybe I should start thinking about doing something. But the behavior still continues. They're still doing it, but they're thinking, gosh, you know, I woke up in the middle of a city that I've never been to. I'm completely lost and I don't know what happened last night. So they're starting to recognize those things and think, maybe this is a problem. Maybe I should get some help, but they haven't done it yet. So that's kind of the idea of contemplation. You know, they're getting there, but they're just not sure. Okay. Next, we have preparation. So what preparation is the individual has decided to change their behavior. So, and they're trying to think like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make this happen? They may go a day without using opioids and say, I'm done, I'm not going to use. But they didn't put the steps in place that they need to, and so they relapse the next day. Something similar to that. The other thing is they may not have changed some of the behaviors that have led to the problematic behavior. So this is kind of the preparation. They're getting ready. They want to change. They may have tried one or two things. Didn't really work, but they still want to do something. Okay, and then the next that we have here, the next stage of change is action. Action is when you've made the call to get treatment. You've made significant steps to end the problematic behavior. This is what I would consider someone being in a treatment program, similar to what McKenzie offers, and not necessarily just what McKenzie offers, but they're in treatment. They're learning what triggers they have that send them back to old behaviors and old ways of using, and they learn to avoid those triggers. They're starting to reach out for help. They are learning who the positive people are in their life that they can go to. They're also learning who the negative people are in their life, who they shouldn't go to. And a lot of it is, this is a lot of what I do in my role here at McKenzie is learning new coping skills, when someone has a relapse, which we'll get to in a minute, you come back, you go back to that action stage of change, and then we talk about what happened. How can we avoid this next time? What is the action that you took and what was that trigger that led to your relapse? And this is all happening within that action stage of change. Someone is ready, they're actively working on their problem, and they are trying to move forward. Okay. And then the next stage of change that we have is the maintenance stage. So that is where the changes have been made during the action stage and are maintained. The individual may continue to face challenges, but at this point, they have successfully changed their behavior for a significant period of time. So a lot of times what I see, let me see if I can work this here, is a difference between, or we see people go from the action stage to the relapse, and then back to the action stage, and then they may go into the maintenance phase where they haven't relapsed for quite a while. They feel comfortable, the triggers aren't on their mind as much. They're able to they're able to go through daily motions and not think about those triggers every minute of every day. Okay. So then the next stage of change, what we have here is relapse. So I'm going to go back, if you guys will humor me for just 1 minute. Okay, so this little graphic here. So you can see the circle. So you're going from one to the next to the next. And I think relapse should be kind of over here on its own little island, because you can you don't go maintenance and then relapse. So you can be in action and then bump out for a little bit and relapse and then come back to the action. Same with maintenance. I mean, from any stage, but these are common ones to go to from relapse. So we'll go back. Okay. So changes have been made. Individuals will return to previous behavior. This can happen at any time during the previous stages. Everyone will experience relapse, will not experience relapse, but it's always a risk. And it's one thing that I work with people on is some people say, well, it's not a relapse. My drug of choice is, let's say, opioids, and they drank alcohol. And so they'll say, well, it's not a relapse. So that's one thing that is individualized on for each person, depending, and I always encourage people, the verbiage is very important, because I don't want someone to come to me or to be home and relapse on to use some kind of substance, whatever that substance may be, and say, I relapsed, I'm done, everything, because what that does is that sends you right back to pre-contemplation, where you say, I'm done. That point where you throw your hands up and say, I tried, I failed. It's not even an issue, it's not an issue anymore. So they're going right back to that problem behavior. So I always encourage people to, we want to be careful with the verbiage that we use. Yes, relapses happen, but let's not focus on the negative. Let's focus on the positive. So, okay. So what I have here, I'm sidetracking a little bit because I just love Maslow's hierarchy of needs so much. I think it's so important in our daily lives to understand for anyone. So for anyone who doesn't know or hasn't heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what this is here is, it's a stepping stone. So the idea behind this pyramid here is, this is the most important step. It's the foundation that we all have to build off of, and then we go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. So the idea is with in order to go to the next step of security, you have to have food. You have to have those physiological needs met. So that is water readily available. You're physically able to sleep. You have food available. You're able to breathe easily. Just those basic physiological needs to stay alive. Once you have that met, those needs are met, you can then step up to the next section of this pyramid, and that is safety. So the idea is you are feeling secure. You have a bed to sleep in at night. You know that you have a home to go to. And they sound very basic, but they're not always. And so, it could be that you don't have a car to get to work. So that is, leads to other problems. And then, so let's say once this problem here is met, you have your security needs. So you have a bed, you know where you're going to be sleeping at night. You have a job where you have a steady income coming in. You have those basic needs met. Then we can work up to love and belonging. So what this is where you have friendship, you have a few close personal friends, you have a relationship. And one of the most common things, the reason I bring this up is one of the most common things that I experience in my career or my role in what I do is I see people coming to me wanting to work on relationships, right here, this middle section, and they are being evicted, or they are currently unemployed and the unemployment check hasn't come in yet. They don't know how they're going to eat tomorrow. But they come to me saying we're having marital problems. And so this is when I pull out this handy dandy Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I explain to them, don't put the cart before the horse. Let's talk about this first, because until you're able to know where you're sleeping at night, know where your food is coming from, or how you're going to get your food, it's difficult to work on relationships. So these are the two most common areas that I work in. So let's say you have all of your love and belonging needs met. So then you can go up to this is the esteem section. So this is where you have confidence. You have respect of other people, and you respect yourself. You're receiving achievements, whether that's in your personal life, your professional life, your career. And then from there, you go into self-actualization. And so self-actualization is when you have an acceptance of facts, even when you don't necessarily agree with them. You are able to utilize your creativity, you have your morality, that sort of thing. So the basic reason I bring this up is just to kind of bring into the idea of the stepping stones. And if someone who is wanting to be in recovery comes to me and says, I don't want to stop using my substances, but I don't know where I'm sleeping tonight. That's a very important step that I need to take into consideration, as does the person wanting treatment. So it's always questions that we ask, who do you stay with? Where are you living? And they need to be addressed. So, all right, we're going to move on. This one, I apologize, the graphics is just not quite as good. But this is the idea of the stepping stone, the pyramid, for when you want to be in recovery, more specifically in recovery. So I have here, what is your why? Why are you doing this? Then the next most important thing is seeking treatment, and then setting goals, and then your maintenance phase, as we've talked about before. So, okay. So the first is, what is your why? So why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for a family member? There's no wrong answers, by the way. Are you doing it for your grandma who passed away, who wanted this for you? Whatever it is that gets you motivated, that's what the answer is. And then the other one is, what are you doing this for? Are you wanting to get an education, better your career? I encourage everyone to write it down. Write down what your dreams are in a journal, on a piece of paper, make it tangible, feel it, write it down, and be specific. Say exactly what you want. This is what you're going to use when you are feeling like you're failing, when you're struggling, when you want to go back on your old ways. You can pull out that piece of paper and say, why am I doing this again? You know, and you'll be able to get through those difficult moments when you're feeling triggered or something like that. So the next one is seeking treatment. So there's all kinds of treatment places to get treatment, different types of treatment. And, you know, again, not just for opioid substance use disorder, but we're more specifically speaking to SUD, OUD. But the types of treatment that we work with regularly are inpatient rehab services. So what that is it can be a really great tool to use to start. It's like a kickstart. You go and you stay somewhere for any number of days. It can be 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever is determined for your appropriateness of care. And you're learning, you're staying there, you're living there, you're learning tools and how to go out into the community and promote or to be in recovery. There's also within the inpatient rehab services, there is a detox program that you may utilize. And what that is that's where you go, you stay somewhere and you're able to detox the substances that are in your body, because it's not always fun when you're detoxing off of them. So that is just one more option that is available. The other is medication assisted treatment, more commonly known as MAT. And what MAT is it is medication that is prescribed by a doctor or a nurse practitioner, and it is used to combat that opioid addiction. So when you have those cravings, the desire to use it, what it does is it comes in and it takes that place for the craving. It meets that need. Medication assisted treatment is one tool in your recovery. So what I always tell people is I don't want you to think that just you're taking this medicine and everything's fine. It takes a lot of the other things that we've talked about so far. It takes avoiding triggers, learning what your triggers are, putting positive people around you. And that leads to the next one, which is what we have here, therapy. So therapy is a great tool that is used in combination with MAT services. So therapy is where you're learning those tools. You're working through some of the possible trauma that has led to your use, and you're acknowledging what brought you to this point. The other thing that is another treatment that is available is nutrition. When someone is using opioids or substances regularly, their nutrition is oftentimes poor for many different reasons, but we encourage people to see a dietitian and get on a plan to get all of the nutrients back into your body that you need. Psychiatric care is also very important. You may need medication for some mental illnesses that you may be experiencing. It can be becoming sober for the first time in a long time. It can be like peeling away onion layers. So you're sober, but then you realize you have severe depression and you don't understand why. And so I try and explain to people, we're peeling away different layers, and maybe you need to go see a psychiatrist to talk about medications for your mental health. And that's the same with nutrition. It's you're peeling away another layer. People come to me and say, I'm gaining so much weight. And, it can be that your body is craving the nutrients. And so we want you to see a dietitian to get the best nutrients as possible in your body. The next one is groups. Groups can also be a great way to meet new people. Addiction and sobriety can be one of the loneliest things you go through. You're changing your social circle, you're changing your ways, and it can be extremely lonely. And so it's important to surround yourself, obviously, with those good, healthy people. And groups are a great way to meet people. It's also a great way to get support. And there's different types of groups. So that would be an educational group where you go and you're learning different types of treatment. And then there's support groups. Support groups are just that. It's people who are going to go and support you and help you. So that's the basics of different types of treatments. I'm sure there's more, but that's just the basic list that I thought was most important. Okay, the next one is setting goals for yourself. So you're to the point where you know why you're doing this, right? You have your plan, you know why you're doing it, you have it written down, you know your treatment plan, you know who you're gonna go see, you know what you're in that action stage of change. And then now we're going to talk about goals. So I don't know if anyone here has heard of SMART goals, but what the idea is, it's a way to set goals that is, I'll show you here, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So I'm a big fan of SMART goals. This can be used every single day of your life for any reason at all. Specific is, what do you want to do? So what I'll do here is I'm going to just run you through a basic example. So your specific goal is you want to remain free of opioids. That's your specific goal. How would you make that measurable? So the way that you would measure that is having used substances or not, and that would be specifically opioids. Making sure that the goal is attainable. So the way that you're going to make the goal attainable, the way is to avoid opioids, is you're going to join a M.A.P program, counseling, and within counseling, you're going to learn to avoid triggers. And you're also, let's say you're considering joining a group. And then let's talk about relevance. How is this relevant to your life? I want to be opioid free so that I can better my children's lives. And then we also want it to be, timely. When do you want to accomplish this? And so this is where I use this a lot with people, where you set a time for yourself. So if you say, well, I'll call the M.A.P program eventually one day, or I'm going to call the M.A.P program within 7 days, and I will have an appointment, the next appointment that they have available, and I will be completely opioid free in 14 days. So there's a big difference between those specific days that you set for yourself and one day I'll be opioid free. It's a way to keep yourself on track and in line. Okay, and then the next top of the pyramid that we have here is maintenance. So with maintenance, you're just continuing to use those goals or use those tools that you've learned. You want to maintain those healthy relationships that you've built, avoid triggers when possible, learn how to deal with triggers when you can't avoid them. There is always going to be problems, times, situations where you are triggered, and learning how to deal with those triggers, I think, can be very healthy. But you don't want to encourage yourself to be around those triggers if possible. And don't be ashamed. This is so important. Don't be ashamed to return to treatment if you need to. You know, if you graduate off of a M.A.R.T program, or you've been doing really well in therapy and you've stopped it, and all of a sudden you've either relapsed or you find that you're not doing well, you think you could relapse, call back. Everyone in a treatment program would be so happy to hear from you. So just call back and ask to get back into treatment. Okay, and then the last slide I have for you here is just different resources that are available. So this one right here is the McKenzie M.A.R.T program, and that's the number listed. This is Pure 360. They are a support group that is in our community, and they are doing wonderful things. They are here in Sanilac County and different areas throughout the thumb. And you can always call the health department if you would like to get Narcan. So I didn't touch on Narcan, but what that is it's a life-saving medication for if someone overdoses on opioids. You can have a medication on your person readily available to use. And the health department gives those away for free with a training. So, okay, so that is my presentation. So I am happy to take questions, and I will stop sharing my screen.
At this time, if you have a question, please put your question down in the Q&A section. Emily, I know you talked about verbiage, how important it is to be careful of what you say, to have a positive mindset. I think that's really important. What else would you say, like if you know someone and you want to say something, but you don't want to say, oh, you'll be fine, or, you know, what would you say to help them motivate?
If someone comes to having relapsed, or if they just are looking for, if a loved one sees a problematic behavior.
A problematic behavior.
Okay, so that would be, if they're in that pre-contemplative stage of change, so that would be, they don't see a problem with that at all. You know, you can maybe touch on it. I always like try to be gentle, try to be loving and encouraging, and say, I'm happy to go with you to a treatment center if you want. And if they are adamant that they don't need change, they're fine, no big deal. Just set clear boundaries with them and say, you know, they can know that you don't approve of the behavior, and you love them, you will always be there for them. And if they want treatment, that you will be the first one there to help them.
Thank you. Any other questions in the chat? Feel free to put some questions. That is absolutely fine. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for sharing your expertise today. And thank you guys for attending Healthy Living Together. And we will send the link via email. You can also find it on Facebook and YouTube. And then also we do these videos every month. So check your calendars and put it down and join us. We'll be having February 10th. We'll have Go Red Ladies Night. So I'll talk about a bunch of different topics throughout each month. So please join us. And if that's it, we have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.